Translation, Śrīla Prabhupada. How was he, Śrīla Śukadeva, the son of Vyāsa, recognized by the citizens when he entered the city of Hastināpura, now Delhi, after wandering in the provinces of Kuru and Jāṅgala, appearing like a madman, dumb and retarded? To purport by Śrīla Prabhupada. The present city of Delhi was formerly known as Hastināpura because it was first established by King Hasti. Goswami Sukadeva, after leaving his paternal home, was roaming like a madman, and therefore it was very difficult for the citizens to recognize him in his exalted position. A sage is not therefore recognized by sight, but by hearing. One should approach a sadhu or great sage not to see, but to hear him. Excuse me. If one is not prepared to hear the words of a sadhu, there is no profit. Sukadeva Goswami was a sadhu who could speak on the transcendental activities of the Lord. He did not satisfy the whims of ordinary citizens. He was recognized when he spoke on the subject of Bhagavatam, and he never attempted jugglery like a magician. Outwardly, he appeared to be retarded, dumb madman, but in fact, he was the most elevated transcendental personality. Wow. So here the question is asked, was he recognized? He wasn't recognized. It's very difficult to recognize him. And Prabhupada makes a very important point here, that a sage is not recognized by sight, but by hearing. And that's so important. One may go sightseeing to the holy places, but it's described that if one doesn't stop and hear from the saints in those places, then it's pretty much a waste of time. You get more benefit from hearing. Even, I think it was Prabhupada was giving a lecture. Excuse me. And he said, he was giving a lecture and some devotees walked out. And Prabhupada said, where are they going? They're not listening. They're not hearing. If you do not hear, then how can you advance? The Shivigraha will become Golograha. If you do not become fixed up and understand this philosophy, then you will be, the deity will just become a burden. So it's interesting. We just saw this documentary on Krishnadas. There's a movie that came out at this film festival. We saw up in Santa Barbara. And it's interesting how, he's a disciple of Nimakroli Baba. And someone other, he encouraged him, to go back to the West, and because it's his karma to become famous. But he's really showing his life of what he went through, his depressions and everything, and how he met, his guru and how it helped him. But when his guru passed away, then he completely fell apart because he didn't have anything to go by. We could see there was no philosophy. Actually, Nimakroli Baba doesn't really have much of a philosophy. And one of his other disciples was Ramdas, who, pretty much kind of spread his philosophy, so-called, but he, even Radhanath Swami says that he pretty much took a lot of stuff together from Buddhism and this and that, and just kind of, put it together. So you see, they didn't really have a philosophy. So he was going through a hard time, and gradually shows his life. But it just made me feel so fortunate that we have Śrīla Prabhupada, a great personality, great person, who were able to hear great philosophy, this amazing philosophy. And not only were those so fortunate to hear him when he was present, now for generations to come, we have a great wealth of philosophy, of books like that. I think I mentioned before that Shyamasundar had said that he was just living based on the person Bhagavatam. And until recently, he's just now taken shelter of the book Bhagavatam. And is so amazed. I mean, he's so relieved and so, just mining and diving in the nectar of this transcendental philosophy. He's just so happy. And he's so amazed also about how devotees that never met Prabhupada, they're reading these books and they're becoming such nice, elevated devotees. He was so impressed by that. So let's go to the next verse here. Katamba panda veyasya rajarshar munina saha sambada samaputata yatraisa satvati shruti. So there's another question. How did it so happen that King Parīkṣit met this great sage, making it possible for him, making it possible for this great transcendental essence of the Vedas, Bhagavatam, to be sung to him? Wow, so I guess it was pretty much sung. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is stated here as the essence of the Vedas. It is not an imaginary story, as it is sometimes considered by unauthorized men. It is also called Sukha Samhita, or the Vedic hymn. Here it says spoken, but I guess it's sung. It was Vedic hymn spoken by Śrīla Śukadeva Goswami, the great liberated sage. So here, now he's asking, how was he recognized, and how was he, as we can see, the common people couldn't recognize him, but these great sages from all over the universe were assembled there. Great personalities, incarnations, devarsis, what's the other terms? Devarsis, incarnations, like that. Even Lord Shiva, and I think Lord Brahma was there too, maybe. I mean, Śrīla Vyāsa was there. But, they're all discussing what's going to happen. And now at the time of my death, what should I do? What should I not do? What's the most important thing to do? So they're all discussing amongst themselves until Sukadeva Goswami happened to be strolling by. And then, because they're all expert at physiognomy, that's how they recognized him. His body was so beautiful. His eyes were like lotus petals. And his arms were very long. He had a bluish hue in his body. His face was very beautiful. Very nice hair. And so they recognized him. I mean, he was walking naked, actually, because he was completely detached, completely self-realized personality. And that type of personality would never even associate with the king, So why did he come there? How did they recognize him? So there's a nice verse. I think this is answered in the 19th chapter, this verse, of this particular chapter, canto. And here's the actual verse that I found here. It says, otherwise, without being inspired by Lord Krishna, how is it that you have voluntarily appeared here, though you are moving incognito to the common man and are not visible to us who are on the verge of death? So this is Parīkṣit saying that. So, so he's hinting, it's without being inspired by Krishna. And Prabhupada mentions that twice in the purport. First in red and then blue, and then it goes on in the purport as I highlighted here. The great sage Sukadeva Goswami was certainly inspired by Lord Krishna to appear voluntarily before Maharaj Parīkṣit, the great devotee of the Lord, just to give him the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. One can achieve the nucleus of the devotional service of the Lord by the mercy of the spiritual master and the personality of Godhead. The spiritual master is the manifested representative of the Lord to help one achieve ultimate success. One who is not authorized by the Lord cannot become a spiritual master. And then here, I highlighted this in blue because I think it's really important. And here he again mentions how he was inspired by Krishna. Śrīla Śukadeva Goswami is an authorized spiritual master, and thus he was inspired by the Lord to appear before Maharaj Parīkṣit and instruct him in the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. One can achieve the ultimate success of going back to Godhead if he is favored by the Lord's sending his true representative. As soon as a true representative of the Lord is met by a devotee of the Lord, the devotee is assured a guarantee for going back to Godhead, just after leaving the present body. This, however, depends on the sincerity of the devotee himself. This is so important. And then the rest of the purport by Śrīla Prabhupada. The Lord is seated in the heart of all living beings, and thus he knows very well the movements of all individual persons. As soon as the Lord finds that a particular soul is very eager to go back to Godhead, the Lord at once sends his bona fide representative. The sincere devotee is thus assured by the Lord of going back to Godhead. The conclusion is that to get the assistance and help of a bona fide spiritual master means to receive the direct help of the Lord himself. So this is Krishna's mercy on all of us, sincere souls in the mature world, especially who can be more sincere than Maharaj Parīkṣit. And this was all Krishna's arrangement so that we today can be reciting the same verses and the same knowledge given by Śukadeva Goswami. So Krishna, by giving this to Maharaj Parīkṣit, is giving it to all of us present, in this entire world. Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm sure, is all over the universe, all over creation. So we're very fortunate because we have also been given the opportunity to associate with the bona fide spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupada, who is an authorized spiritual master, and he was inspired, you can say, by the Lord, who was working through his spiritual master, who worked through his spiritual master back down to Lord Chaitanya and back to Krishna. They were inspired to spread this knowledge so that we can actually go back home, back to God, become truly happy by going back home. Because there's a nice quote I found. I don't know if it's very clear, but I just took a picture of it. It's kind of blurry, but this is the importance of the Guru. The conditioned soul wanders throughout different planets in different forms and bodies. But if by chance it comes in contact with Guru, grace descends and spiritual life begins. So see how much grace we have, given by Śrīla Prabhupada. We have his audio recordings, we have his written recordings, we have his, different conversations, letters, video, to see, just think, imagine if you were able to see a great personality that appeared before our time, to hear about him. All so much nectar. Like Jesus, they see if you had a video of Jesus or some lectures, that would be amazing, huh? So look what we have. We're so fortunate. We have a pure devotee of Krishna that was sent by Krishna through his spiritual master, through his Guru, so that we can actually receive this grace and our spiritual life has begun. There's another quote, it's very nice, about guidance. It says, fill your heart with these three: the words of saintly people, the words of holy books, and the words of your Guru. Yeah, so that's by Hastināpura. So this is kind of an interesting thing called the Dharma deck that Mandala published. Somebody had some, so I was just going through it, picking out a few things, and they kind of thought they'd be interesting to apply. So here we're given the importance of the Guru, his holy books, his words, and that's just what we should do. This is our guidance. We should always fill our heart with these three things: saintly people, words of holy books, and the words of your Guru. You see, we can see someone like Krishnadas, he didn't have the holy books. Actually, he made one point during that Dharma, he said, because he went through so much difficulty. He was in drugs, and he was like going down really bad. And some other holy person told him to stop and, get it together. So he finally got it together, and he was always feeling that himself was in another way of actually trying to spread, this holy name or whatever he was, doing, because he was so interested in, his false ego, fame, sex, drugs, all these things he was interested in. So he was in his own way until finally, somehow or another, at the end, he claims, he kind of saw the bigger picture, and he realized that, he says in the video that, all the stuff in his literatures, these transcendental books, like Gita and things like this, they're actually true. I wish I would have read them. I wish I would have read them instead. So, yeah. So this is what we have. We're so fortunate to have these things. Take advantage of this. Because our Guru, we have Śrīla Prabhupada, he's come. Given us these transcendental sounds, they're recorded. He's so merciful. The Guru, Prabhupada said, he was just very happily in Vrindavan. He was just sitting there. Like he says, here's a letter he wrote about humility. Prabhupada says, personally, I am non-entity. I've come here on the order of my spiritual master, and he's kindly sent all you boys to assist me. So whatever is being done, there is no credit for me, but all credit goes to my spiritual master, because he has arranged everything, and I am simply trying to abide by his order. So this is the humility of the devotee. They're very humbly carrying out the order of their Guru. They just simply come. Prabhupada also says, they actually, when we were visiting in Carpentero, we're visiting Giriraj Swami for a while, and Shyamasundar came, and he gave a nice talk. And you can see it on Giriraj Swami's website, girirajswami.com, I guess. And it shows, and he's talking about the different qualities. He's really amazed about his reading his transcendental literatures, and he was giving some nice quotes that really touched him. He was talking about the different qualities of Krishna, his wonderful qualities, how he's our hero, how he's the richest person, he's a perfect linguist. And then he was relating how, all these qualities reminded him of Prabhupada, because he has so much personal contact with Prabhupada. And he would tell us all different examples about how Prabhupada would, just speak. And he was perfect, everything he would say was just amazing. No matter what type of personality, what type of group he was speaking to, or how intelligent they were, or how ruffian they were, Prabhupada would speak in such a way that they would all become happy and satisfied. There's one example where, he was meeting with this group of women, and the first thing the Prabhupada says is, it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Vedic literatures, that women are less intelligent than men, and their brain is, 35 ounces and 65 ounces. And Shyamasundar was like thinking, oh no, Prabhupada, don't go there. It's like, this is he was like freaking out. But it's amazing, by the end, everyone was completely happy and satisfied, and, everyone went away happy, smiling, and completely satisfied. In the same way with Prabhupada speaking with the scientists, he would say, you never went to the moon, things like that, and, just challenge them, and, the devotees like Shyamasundar would be thinking, oh, don't go there. This is the wrong crowd. And then Prabhupada would actually, sorry, I'm in the office here. Let's see if I can turn this off. I don't know if it would turn off or not. But anyway, I can't see a thing. Oops. Hello? Oh, it's gone. Sorry about that. But Yeah. So all the scientists were completely satisfied when they, after Prabhupada spoke. So like that, time and time again, so many wonderful qualities that Prabhupada has that are similar to Krishna. I think we can have like 78% of the qualities of Krishna. So once you become a devotee, you develop all these wonderful qualities. And there have been many books published about Prabhupada. His nature, his compassionate nature, his great nature, respect, all the 26 qualities of a devotee. There's so many nice books. There's that one book called Acharya. There's a few left at the BBT. They're on sale, actually. They did this for the centennial. I think they're like $5. But, all these 26 qualities, and they talk about Prabhupada and quotes from the different books about Prabhupada. And there's that other book called the Prabhupada book. It's a very big, huge book of very nice photos of Prabhupada and different quotes and things on there also. And Shama Sundar said, he loved that book because it reminded him of Prabhupada when he was with him. Personally, there's so many nice photos of Prabhupada just, smiling, laughing, just like really, practically doing belly laughs, and how Prabhupada is such expressive personality, one of Krishna's qualities. In that one book, there's a picture where it shows Prabhupada, like they take many frames, like you shoot like all kinds of frames per second. So they showed all these pictures side by side, and it shows Prabhupada, from a grave look, just within a few seconds to, laughter. So this is Prabhupada. Prabhupada's compassionate nature, which is Krishna's nature. There's a lecture given by Prabhupada on the disappearance day of Keshava Maharaj. And Prabhupada said that, I was sitting alone in Vrindavan, writing. My godbrother insisted to me. This is one of Keshava Maharaj's Purusham Tiksunyas. Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, you must do it. Without accepting the renounced order of life, nobody can become a preacher. So he insisted. Not he insisted. Practically, my spiritual master insisted. Through him, he wanted me to become a preacher. So he forced me through this godbrother. You accept. So unwillingly, I accepted. So you can see again here, the sadhus, we always have to, these three things, gems, the association of saintly people. Prabhupada always kept that association. Prabhupada is like Krishna is a friend also. Prabhupada showed that in so many letters that he wrote, so many lectures, so many counseling he gave to his disciples. He practically gave, so much advice, materially and spiritually, because he's such a good friend, passionate friend. Here's one letter that was given in 1967. How Prabhupada is such a nice friend. Convey my ardent affection and blessings for all the boys and girls. I am very much hopeful of my movement. Please keep steady. Follow all my instructions scrupulously. Chant Hare Krishna, and Krishna will give you all strength. So, you could just meditate on Prabhupada so nicely throughout all these different literatures and just by reading his books. And you can become enlightened, become full of grace. There's a nice room conversation Prabhupada gave in 1976 in which he was discussing the logic of the lame man and the blind man, the Anda Pangu Nyaya. Prabhupada says how they're both uselessly separately, but when they combine in Krishna consciousness, they become very useful. And Prabhupada used the example of the piece of wire just falling and rotting, and it's all rusted out. And then there's a piece of bamboo, which is also rotting. And then there's a piece of squash skin. They're just sitting around, laying around, just all separately, just rotting. And then there's one gentleman, he collected them, and then he nicely trimmed the piece of wire. He dried the squash, the outer portion, and he took the bamboo, and then he nicely cut it and joined the string, and this became a sitar. So Prabhupada said, this is an intelligent person. He joins all these things and makes it very useful. So just like the bamboo is useless, the small piece of wire is useless, the thrown out squash skin is useless. But if you can join them together, then there's, this music you could get from the sitar. So Prabhupada says, similarly, there's a lame man and there's a blind man. And if they are all right, combined together, then that's good. So here, let me see, Prabhupada says, right. He said, understanding that these instructions perfectly coincided with Śrīla Prabhupada's own actions, his disciples immediately responded, we are all useless in the West, but you have come and then engaged us. In humility, Śrīla Prabhupada replied, it is Krishna's desire. Nobody is useless. I was also useless. I could not do in India alone anything. Two useless makes useful. So this is nice. And see, there's one more thing here. Talks about Prabhupada at his very advanced age. As I mentioned, he was in Vrindavan, living very peaceful. He was considered a great personality there. He was so comfortable, and undoubtedly he would have went back to Gaudi just by staying in Vrindavan. But here it says, his mission was to fulfill the order of his spiritual master to spread Krishna consciousness, love of God, to the English-speaking people of the world. In accomplishing his arduous task, not only did Śrīla Prabhupada dance and chant with his young followers, giving them the highest goal of life, but he personally cared for them. He gave them shelter from the turbulent troubles of material life by providing good counsel on virtually every aspect of their lives, material and spiritual. So that's Śrīla Prabhupada. It's like the Hastināpura Goswami. He's coming, he's appearing, and giving us this process. He's so merciful. And this is another, actually, quote from the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, about merciful. That is the way of Krishna consciousness. Pure devotees are so absorbed in thought of Krishna that they have no other engagement. Although they may seem to think or act otherwise, they are always thinking of Krishna. The smile of such a Krishna-conscious person is so attractive that simply by smiling, he wins so many admirers, disciples, and followers. And this is what Shyamasundar was saying. Prabhupada would be so happy, but yet he would just smile. And everyone would just be satisfied and happy. It's so nice. And how he's totally always absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And this is the devotee. He sees Krishna everywhere. I was just reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, where it says how the complete picture of Krishna consciousness is to be able to utilize everything in Krishna's service, all our senses, and to be able to see Krishna everywhere, and to be fully engaged, always in Krishna's service. That's the complete picture of Krishna consciousness. And then it also describes in the Bhagavatam how it shows that, the eyes who do not see Krishna, they're like peacock plumes, or the head turban that does not bow before the deity is like dead, and breathing just like a bellows. It describes that all these senses are completely, and everything is useless. As Prabhupada mentioned, it's different. We're all just useless if we don't see the complete picture of actually what it means to have a purpose in life, to live, in Krishna consciousness, to see Krishna everywhere. It's so important that we try to understand what it really means, the full Krishna consciousness. Because then we begin to see and understand what our purpose of life is. We have a reason to be here. We have a reason, we have a purpose. There was another quote I found that was, it's from a materialist person. I don't know who this is, some Phelps, but it's interesting. It said here, what an immense power over the life is the power of possessing distinct aims. And they said here, she quotes here that once, it's so powerful to have a distinct aim that the voice, the dress, the look, the very motion of a person define and alter when he or she begins to live for a reason. And that's what Prabhupada came. He came to give us a reason to live. And by doing that, the beautiful voices of the devotees, you can see so many nice kirtans going on, the beautiful dress of the devotees, which looks like they came from Vaikuntha. The look, they're so bright and shiny. The way they move, their whole life was altered just by understanding the whole picture of Krishna consciousness. And Krishna is everywhere. There's an interesting thing that Shyama also said when we were there, how he was reading where he said that Krishna is everywhere at all times and all places, everywhere. It was like, it's amazing. He was trying to understand, that about how Krishna consciousness is everywhere. Sorry about the bell. I forgot about the phone here in the office. So someone will answer it there. Okay, so this is Krishna. He's everywhere. He's using an analogy, just like you see Krishna is standing in this space, like right here where I'm sitting. And he was here even before this chair was here. And he's been everywhere simultaneously. It's amazing, you can't imagine. And he's showing how scientists were proving even more and more how he's seeing how science and Krishna consciousness is actually converging, because they're beginning to realize, that we have the philosophy to actually, and we've been knowing this even before the scientists of understanding this. But they had this one, they call this the God principle, but how they had all these, they kind of bombard these two elements, minute atoms or whatever, at high speed, and they see just to see what happens. And they noticed that after they exploded, they collided, they noticed there was something in between, like, the sparks would go here and some would go there and some would go. They noticed that there was actually something in between those sparks that was guiding them everywhere and everything, like that. There was actually something there that was guiding it. Which is amazing. See, Krishna is everywhere in everything. There's that nice, there's a quote from a verse that says that the Lord is everywhere at all times, and his appearance and disappearance are merely the experience of the inhabitants of a particular universe. He's just like the sun. The sun does not appear or disappear in the sky. Right? It is only in the experience of men that in the morning the sun rises, and in the evening the sun sets. The Lord is simultaneously both in Vaikuntha and everywhere, within and without Vaikuntha. Isn't that amazing? That's what they inspired Shyama Sundar. Says how Krishna is everywhere at all times, forever, and always has been. So that's interesting, huh? How in quantum physics is explaining too how, that's what they claim. And understanding quantum physics, I don't understand it, but what he was kind of saying was how everything that happens is connected to everything else. That's like quantum physics, like a blade of grass moves. It doesn't move without the sanction of Krishna, and how that blade of grass is affecting the wind and the clouds and the sun. Everything is affected by that. So this is Krishna consciousness. And let's see here. That's a quote. Pure devotees are so absorbed in the thought of Krishna that they have no other engagement. Although they may seem to think or act otherwise, they are always thinking of Krishna. The smile of such a Krishna-conscious person is so attractive that simply by smiling, he wins so many admirers, disciples, or followers. So anyway, here's some more photos of Prabhupada in action, giving guidance to his disciples and putting on great festivals all over the world, dancing and chanting amongst his disciples. Look at that he brought. Look how their life changed. The way they dressed, the way they looked, their appearance, everything. They had a purpose. in life. So everything changed. It's amazing, Your voice, your look, the emotion, all these changed by the power of a pure devotee. And that's it. So any other comments or questions, realizations? Krishna consciousness, if I didn't lose you?
Prabhu, you're going to give me a second here to unmute everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Almost there. All right. Now I have universally unmuted everyone. That means that if you have individually muted yourself, you can unmute if you'd like to make a question or a comment. Otherwise, please stay muted so that there's not too much background noise. Okay. Anyone?
Jai.
I'll ask a question. Goji, a very nice class. Thank you. Today's verse dealt, particularly the first one, about recognizing the pure devotee, the advanced devotee. Earlier we read about the fact that the Vaishnavas understood the science of physiognomy, for starters, and then just by the physical symptoms. Now, I don't think that's anything that we're going to be able to use in anytime soon. I don't think we're meant to study the science of physiognomy. But more importantly, today it talked about hearing, that when we hear, we can know who is pure. But how can we practice it within our society? Some very advanced devotees, they don't speak much. Some are very articulate, are very prominent expert speakers, and some very advanced devotees, they may just be very simple in their service, but very pure. How do we recognize within our society devotees that are advanced and devotees that are not advanced, if physiognomy isn't the science that we understand and not all speak? And what other ways can we know those who are advanced and perhaps those that are nonsense, so that we can know who to associate with, who to preach to, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, it's a good question. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a nice quote where they're asking now, I think they're praising a devotee, and they're saying that some devotees speak very nicely, but they don't act very nice. But other devotees act nicely, but they don't speak very nice. But he said, you are most advanced devotee because you not only speak nicely, but you also act nicely. So, we have to, our character has to change, maybe. And there's another quote that says that it's only by the merciful words that emanates from one's mouth that one is actually shows his advancement. So, there's so many quotes you could find. But basically, it's by, you judge a person by the way they act, by how they live, what they say, who they associate with, because you are who you associate with. You can see devotees some devotees may claim to be devotees, but what are they doing? See how they live. They're watching movies, they're going, reading, what kind of books are they reading? Not to say that it's all bad in itself, but if you really want to see who's advanced, what are they doing? Look at how they live, who they associate with, what are they reading, what are they watching? And that's how to tell. Externally we can see someone may be a devotee, but eventually, we see how they act. We've seen that so much in our movement. The true colors eventually show. So maybe someone else has more realizations on that, or their experience.
As you were speaking, it was sounding like the verse, which is exactly right, spot on, where Arjuna asked Krishna, Stita Pragasya Kavasha Samanti Stasya Keshava Stiti Vikim Prabhasheta Kim Asita Prajeta Kim. How do we know someone is advanced in spiritual life? What does he do? How does he act? What does he say? How does he sit? And Krishna's first answer?
Yes, I was...
Prajahati Dakaman Sarvan Parthamanogatam Atmani Vatmanatushta Steprigas Jochite. Prajahati Dakaman, the first symptom is that he gives up all desire for sense gratification. Prajahati Dakaman Sarvan Parthamanogatam, knowing that this is all mental concoction, that there is no pleasure.
Yeah.
Atmani Vatmanatushta, and then he is going inward. He's finding his joy inward. Atmani Tushta means to be satisfied. He's satisfied turning inward. In this way we can know one advance in spiritual life. I mean, we may not always know. We may not always be able to tell who's advanced and who's not advanced. Therefore, better to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, that's that one verse I mentioned. It's called Acharya Pachara, Namera Kahara Dui Kara, Tumi, Sarva Gui Tumi, Jagatera Arya. It says, you simultaneously perform both duties in relation to the holy name by your personal behavior and by your preaching. Therefore, you are the spiritual master of the entire world, for you are the most advanced devotee in the world. So this is where Sanatana Goswami is defining the bona fide spiritual master, and these are the qualifications that are expressed here. You see, so that's Haridas Thakur. He regularly chanted, he chanted so many rounds. Was it 300,000 rounds a day? And devotees, we chant to the 16. So, if we just do that and preach the call to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu according to the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, then Prabhupada said that one who does so is quite fit to become a spiritual master for the entire world. Yeah. So any other comments or realizations?
Well, I was trying to look up a verse from the 11th canto, and I just couldn't find it. But it says something to the effect that one who is completely transcendental, his activities very much look like that of a drunk person. He doesn't take care of his appearance. His mind is distracted. It's very much like the description here that we have, dumb, drunk, or retarded. He doesn't take care of his appearance. He just can't relate to anything in this world. So superficially, we can accept a liberated person might be accepted to be, somebody who's just crazy. But in actuality, he just cannot relate to this world any longer. Yeah. And he doesn't care for his appearance like that. So very rightly, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that the way to recognize him is by what he speaks. Just like Jud Bharat. Wasn't that the word here? Judavan? Where is it?
Jud Bharat. He was, pretended to be retarded and dumb. But simply by hearing.
Judavan.
Yeah.
One is possessed, look like he's stunted, doesn't have enough brains. So it was the same with Jud Bharat. It wasn't until he spoke to Maharaj Rahugana, was that his name? I think it was the king, Rahugana, who had him carry the palanquin, and then he started chastising for not carrying properly, trying to avoid the ants. And then as soon as Jud Bharat started speaking, the king immediately fell at his feet and said, "Oh my God, did I ever make a mistake?" This is a saintly person. Yeah. So it's by hearing.
Sure. That's a good point.
It's fun to say, even sometimes somebody might even be speaking in a bit crazy way too, that nobody can understand what in the world it is. We have even stories of that. Some people might even be speaking, not only just looking a little bit crazy like, but even speaking a bit crazy like.
Yeah.
And nobody will be able to figure out what it is, and they might actually doubt personally. Same. I mean, we have stories. So even the seeing might not be an indication. It ultimately can be about another.
Yeah, but eventually you'll see that both is there. The most advanced will speak about Krishna. And they serve Krishna.
They're verbal. But that's what they're like.
Thank you.
And this also is the reason why a devotee in the topmost platform may come down to the second-class platform just for preaching work, because ordinary people will not be able to understand his activities. So he acts in such a way as an acharya that people can relate to them, so they can make spiritual advancement. Otherwise, if they act as if they're in ecstasy all the time, then common people will misunderstand.
Yeah.
And it won't be for their benefit.
It's true.
So an elevated soul will act in such a way that people won't misunderstand, and they'll have a chance to become Krishna conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Lord Chaitanya cautioned Ramananda Roy when they first met and they were exhibiting such symptoms of ecstasy that practically no one could figure out what's going on. And Lord Chaitanya cautioned that they had to, with great difficulty, control themselves to sort of control these symptoms of ecstasy so that others would not misunderstand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. True. That's nice how the spiritual mastery may be very advanced on the Uttama Adhikari platform. It doesn't discriminate between devotees and non-devotees. But yet he sees himself. He sees everyone else as a devotee but himself. Isn't that amazing?
Who was more intimate with Lord Chaitanya practically than Prabhupada? Such an intimate servant of Lord Chaitanya, but yet Prabhupada practically never, only for very rare occasions, hardly at all would he exhibit the avadhuta-like symptoms. But he was always acting as acharya, setting the perfect example for us to follow.
Yeah, that reminds me of a nice, one of those memories tapes. I forgot who was telling us, but Prabhupada was giving a lecture, and he was talking about the four classes of people, the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and the Sudras. So, someone was, asked a question, kind of challenging and kind of smart, trying to, get Prabhupada, kind of maybe stump Prabhupada or something. He says, well, Prabhupada, or whatever, what is your position? What class are you? And Prabhupada says, we are not. He shocked everybody, and everybody thought, well, maybe he'll say, we're the teaching class, we're the Brahmanas. But he probably said, we are the fifth class men. He said, because we are serving the other four classes. He said, I am fifth class man. And then there was one similar to that too, and Prabhupada was saying, oh, you first class? And Prabhupada says, no. And so Prabhupada was saying it so sincerely that actually a tear came in his eyes. No, I am fifth class man. I serve all the other four classes. So Prabhupada was completely humble, and even though it was the most elevated platform, he didn't think himself, in that way. And that's amazing. Jai.
Okay. Is there anyone else has anything they would like to add? Nice presentation, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you. Hope this wasn't. Yeah, it's more simple.
That was very good.
yeah. Okay, so thank you
Easy
so
to
much.
absorb.
So glad to be back on Skype and be back in LA. We're up, as I mentioned, up visiting Swami for a couple weeks. And it was a nice association with the sadhus.
Right.
Sadhus.
Where are you, Goda?
We went to Carpintera, Santa Barbara, near there, to visit Swami.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Stayed with him for a couple weeks, did some service, and took a little break. It was nice.
How's the BBT managing without you there?
I'm come back and it's all falls apart. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm just a mouse here. Just look for a few crumbs of mercy here and there. So, die. All right, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Gauda Prabhu. All glories to Śrīla Prabhu.
Thank you, Goda Ji. Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
everyone. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.